Problem 16, 27, Chapter 16, Problem 27. In Part A, we're asked to calculate the present value of the lease. You can see that they've used the tables, which we do not use. They've also found the present value of the lease using your calculator. The payments of 10 million, interest rate of 6%, and N is 20. Be careful to make sure that your calculator should be on begin mode for this particular problem. And you can see it's 114,699 and 21, which they have rounded to 115 just for simplicity's sake. So in Part A, they find the value of the lease is worth basically close to $115 million. You then record that as a capital lease in your balance sheet. So you add that as under the leased property under capital lease. So it goes under the capital assets. You have your current assets of 50 million, capital assets of 50 million, but now you also have the capital lease of 115, which means your assets total to be 215. You then offset that with a obligation under capital lease of 115 million. So it still balances. So the balance sheet still is in balance, and you show the asset value, the present value of the capital lease, but you also show that you have 115 million in obligations under the capital lease. So they have a net effect of zero, but it gives your investors opportunity to see, oh, you have $115 million in additional liabilities. So in the original information, without the capital lease, your original debt ratio, which we took in chapter number 3, was 40 million over 100, 40%. You can see that in the revised scenario, where you have include the capital lease, all of a sudden your debt ratio is 72.1. And that is a very significant difference between having debt of 40 cents for every dollar of assets compared to having debt of 72 cents for every dollar of assets. So it makes your company much more risky. And it's why it needs to be included for investor purposes. So in Part D of this particular case, we're going to compute the debt to equity ratio from before and after. You can see that before it was 2/3, 66.7%, and after you have a lot more debt than you have equity, almost over 2.5 times actually, 258.3%. So for every dollar of equity under the original, you have 0.66 or 67 cents, 66 or 67 cents. And under the revised, including the capital, for every dollar of equity, you actually have $2.58 of debt. And that's a very different scenario for investors. This is something that has come up because of including capital leases on the balance sheet, which at certain times in the past was not the case. So this makes a very big difference for investors. Oh, do you owe 40 cents on the dollar, or do you owe 72 cents on the dollar? And this company has more debt than they have equity. So if the company were to go bankrupt, the investors would not get their money back. So in Part E, you can see changes under the change for CICA recommendations. And financial analysts would have known this beforehand. You can see it states that, but it just makes it more explicit. So financial analysts would have known about the capital lease, or should have known about the capital lease, but it just makes it for the average investor to be able to understand it better, because they don't know that. So in Part F, it talks about management and their concerns. So if the market is efficient, what it may do is the market may take a slightly different view of the fact that their debt levels are much higher than was originally thought, as explained in my earlier explanation. So if the market didn't know about the capital leases, this would be viewed as a negative, that this company is more debt ridden, and that may make the company more likely to go out of business or go bankrupt. And if the market already knew this information, it's already been absorbed into the pricing of the common shares.